Hi all, and welcome to this first episode, having a look at some of the import Sega Saturn games. Now, as people know, being a Sega Saturn collector, it can be very, very difficult to pick up some of the key titles for the system, and in some cases, some games come out in other parts of the world that don't come out in PAL territories, which is where I am. I'm in the UK. The Sega Saturn had a pretty rum deal in this country, where basically I think we've got about 230 games in total, all said and done, between 1995 and 1998. In Japan, it's a bit of a different story. The Saturn was far more successful, and in some cases was actually more successful than the Nintendo 64 over in its home territory there. And I think you got closer to about 600 games come the end of the lifespan, which was from 1994 up to year 2000, where support ended. So it actually went on into the Dreamcast lifespan by about 2 years, 18 months at that point. And yeah, it really reflects about how some of the games are far cheaper, I found, in Japanese territories than they are to get the PAL versions. Moreover, I actually find that some of the Japanese versions, the cases, the artwork, and the disc artwork is so much better than what we got over here. So I feel we got stiffed really with those horrible cardboard cases that were the first lot that shipped, and then eventually we got the horrid plastic sleeve versions, like a sort of an off-skew DVD case, which can be an absolute nightmare to open. Sometimes you fling the disc out, it goes flying away. Those cardboard cases that get scuffed, and if the little teeth break on the disc tray, that's it. You've got to try and manufacture some sort of system into getting it to work again. So it's a nightmare all round. That being said, we did get a better time than the Americans when it came to cases. They got these sort of see-through plastic boxes, which we got a few Mega CD games that came in those boxes, and believe you me, they are absolutely horrendous. If you've ever owned a copy of Ground Zero Texas or Sewer Shark on the Mega CD in this country, you'll know that the little hinges on the cases break all the time and they get really rough and hackneyed. So the game we're looking at today, I digressed, is Gekka Mugen, which is Torico in the PAL regions and Lunacy for the North American market. It's an interesting game because it was basically localised by Sega themselves, the American and the PAL versions, so all the English work was done by Sega, and for some reason or another they thought that the North American release just simply wasn't going to sell, so they outsourced it. They were concentrating on other key titles, so they outsourced it. So eventually it was published by Atlas in North America, and it was called Lunacy. So that's why it's got a different name over there, and why when you search for it on eBay, your results can be somewhat off depending on whether you know the different names for the game. So it's Gekka Mugen Torico in Japan, and we just refer to it as Torico in PAL regions. It's quite a difficult game to obtain nowadays, but I'll talk more in detail about that sort of later on in the episode, with what the prices are reflecting today's market, and what region is the best version to go for if you're an English speaker watching this video. So it's a fantastic game, and it's actually in the series of games. You've got the Mansion of Hidden Souls, which was on the Sega Mega CD. It was called Yumimi Mystery Mansion over here in PAL territories. Again, this whole game series just seems to have various different names depending on where your regions are. You had just Mansion of Hidden Souls, which is on the Saturn, which people think is actually a remake of the Mega CD version. Turns out it's not. It's actually a sequel, although you wouldn't be able to tell because it plays nigh on the same. The plot is very, very similar. It's just some of the events in the game are totally different to the Mega CD version to warrant it being different enough to be like a sequel. But the third in this series was Torico, and Torico was released in 1996 in Japan, over here we didn't get it until the later part of 1997, so Saturn's already packing up its pots and pans by that point, so there aren't that many copies of it around at all. In Japan there's an abundance of them, but the Japanese version is pretty cool because you have your sort of double jewel case box here with very nice artwork on the disc here. Obviously you get your registration cards to do with Japanese games, a nice booklet as well, but in the back you get a really cool like sort of poster if you've got a complete copy of this, which is really quite cool. You don't really see that in UK games on the Saturn. Again, it's on 2 discs because it is FMV heavy, this game. The whole game it's very much like sort of a mixture between Riven, Myst and things like that, and a bit of Seventh Guest thrown in there if you're a CDI fan. And it's one of the better examples of this sort of genre out there. I would say that by the time 1997 came around, you were getting this sort of saturated genre was perfected pretty much, the sort of pre-rendered full motion video movement based game. You can have this done in quite a small amount of time. It can be done in a couple of hours if you know exactly where you're going. But that being said, there are multiple endings to it, so there are reasons to keep coming back to it. You've got your PAL version of it here, which I obtained from CEX, and again I'll go through that a little bit later. In this version, you get obviously your full-size instruction booklet, which isn't actually that big, to be honest. It's quite a small manual. It's only probably about 10 or 11 pages. And we've got more sort of just dark disc, which isn't really that impressive. But it does what it sets up to do, and really you don't watch the disc when it's spinning in the machine. Well, you might do. I don't. But to play the Japanese version of the game, this is the PAL version running in the machine at the minute, you're going to need one of these chappies here, which is your Action Replay 4 Meg Plus, or alternatively, if your machine has a mod chip in it, you can play it that way. I would say the Action Replay is probably the best way to do it. Naturally, there aren't really any Action Replay codes for this game because you can't really die, as a manner of speaking, so there's not really anything that would aid you in the game. But what we'll do is we'll cut to a bit of the gameplay so you can see the Japanese version of it running and a bit of the gameplay, just to see what to expect. If this is a game that maybe you want to pick up, I consider it as one of sort of the treasures in the Saturn's lineup, and a game that really everyone should experience. Any Sega fan should have a go on this. So let's have a little look at it, shall we? Game. As you can see, the animation actually is real top drawer on this game. Looks absolutely fantastic, but the problem is this is a very narrative driven game, and you can't understand what he's saying for a start. No idea. So if you haven't played this game in English before, you'll have no concept of what is going on whatsoever. And although it does hold your hand getting out of the prison cell, the game requires very different objects to progress through the game, and the problem there is that you're not really going to know what is required where, because you're not going to get your audio cues, which give out the sort of the clues as to where what you're supposed to go, what you're supposed to be using, and you could use a guide. You could very well use a guide for this game, but that sort of takes away a lot of the reason to play it in the first place. So you really might as well just watch a YouTube playthrough if that's going to be the case. Have a little chat with him again, or you can go and obviously try the bars, which the guy's going to turn around and he'll say, take it easy, what's the rush or whatever, and then you'll basically say you want to get out of there, and you'll be a bit frustrated. The second time you try the gate, he will actually give you a key to get out. So if you have got the Japanese version, I'll at least give you that hint, which you'll find out anyway. But you can see that it plays very much like sort of a Myst type game. A bit of Riven thrown in there as well. He's frustrated now. He wants to just get out. He just wants to get out of there. Again, he's like, just take it easy, alright? So it's quite difficult at this point. to really understand what anyone is talking to Fred about. One thing I've noted here is the memory select feature, which will let you sort of relive a bit this story should you feel the need to sort of catch up on what you've already done. So that's quite a handy feature, and at least that bit's in English. Item select again, got English for the menu, which is cool. Got your save function out, which forms up as the diary. Now we're going to sort of use this key to get out, and we're going to have a cutscene from this point forward. In the English version, he can't believe his luck that the key actually works. As you can see, the running animation is a little bit shonky, but keep in mind this is actually one of the best looking Saturn games there is, I think. I think it still holds up pretty well today, unlike a lot of FMV based games that you get around the time that this coming out, especially on the Mega CD. He's annoyed that the bold guys just let him out. How about a little bit of freedom? Skip it, is what he's going to say. And there you go. That's not very nice, is it? So we're just going to pan to Fred running through the city a little bit. He's going to try and find his way out, and he doesn't really know where he is. He's very disorientated. Why he's been locked up in a cell, he doesn't know either. And again, you would have a hard time sort of understanding any of that if if this is the sole copy you've got of Gekka Mugen-san. Now, the music's absolutely fantastic in this game. It's really, really cool, and it's something that you can appreciate whichever version of the game you get, because it's the same across the board. It didn't change any of the music in any of the localizations of the game. That door up here is locked, so there's no point in even going that way. What I will do is I will just take you to the point where Fred does get punched out by our friend in this, who was looking for him in the cells there. You can get lost very, very easy on this game, which is not exactly ideal, especially when it's sort of in a different language. So, but it's a good game to sort of appreciate just how fine the art style is on the game. I think it's up here if you go up to the sort of city gates. Try and escape. That'd just be too easy, wouldn't it? So he wants to get out of town. It's a good riddance. This town's nuts. How he already knows that, I don't know, because he's just literally run from the jail cell through into a courtyard and to the gates. I certainly wouldn't think that of my own home city if it was the first time I was in it. I don't know why Fred here thinks that it's full of mentalists. I mean, if anything, the guy in the cell gave him the key. It's quite a... You're the one that locked me up. I should have your guts or garters. Skip it, presumably. Nice little slow motion sequence. Doesn't really hold up that well, this sort of effect here. I mean, you could mistake that for the Saturn actually slowing down, couldn't you? Right, okay, so it's cut to where you're going to meet sort of the main antagonists of the game. You've got a guy who pretty much runs the city, this sort of vampiric looking character here, with the woman on his left there, could very well be his lover or assistant or secretary, who knows. It is the 90s. She could be all. So yeah, what I'm going to do is we'll have a little discussion about how the price of this game now reflects in today's market. So it doesn't play too badly. It actually still plays pretty well by today's standards. There are far more Saturn games out there that when you play them now you think, God, this has aged really, really badly, especially with the Saturn's 3D capabilities. It was certainly a powerful enough console, it just really wasn't utilised in the way that Sega had intended, and that's a shame really, and it does reflect in quite a bit of the third-party software, to say the least. But this, as I said, this game is actually, Sega saw reason to publish this sort of game, which is quite unusual really. I should imagine what they were trying to do this late in the day in PAL regions was trying to play a little bit off the back of experiences like Final Fantasy on the PS1 that had a lot of full motion video going on. And I don't know if you remember, but in a lot of magazine previews and with Final Fantasy, it was the full motion video that was shown, and people mistaking that for in-game graphics when it wasn't. It was just full motion video. So Sega have sort of capitalised a little bit on that sort of idea. But if you're going to buy this game today, and I recommend you do seek it out, you can get a Japanese copy of this for about £5, which is bargainous. A PAL copy of this, on the other hand, is the second cheapest, and on eBay this will usually set you about £55 to £60 for a complete copy of it. People have been lucky in the past and managed to find maybe a scruffy copy of it, one maybe without booklet, which is a big no-no for PAL Saturn games. You can find it for about 30 quid, so if you do see it for that sort of price, snap it up. But a lot of copies of this game, I think, probably ended up being exported to the USA, because Lunacy is considered one of the rarest NTSC USA games. So that passes hands for £150, which equates to about sort of $200, $220, and it is very sought after. It's plays identical to its PAL counterpart as well, aside from obviously the name. And yeah, it is scarce, very very scarce. It's I didn't really know about it until I saw a rolling video demo on one of the Sega Flash demo discs, and yeah, I really fancied it. My first copy I managed to obtain from the now defunct Game Station, the Plymouth branch. I managed to get that for like £6.99. My copy back then didn't have a booklet. This copy here that I got from CEX ended up costing me 50 quid this time around, because I'm going back through and collecting Saturn games again, and I thought I could deal with just having Japanese copies, but I do actually really like to get the PAL UK copies, because you know, it just seems right, doesn't it, getting the ones correct for your region. So there you have it. That's basically summing up Torico as a game, as an experience. If you like Shenmue, it's very much like a sort of primitive version of that experience. If you like Riven and Mist, absolutely go for this game. And if you've played the Mansion of Hidden Souls or Yumimi Mitsu Mansion before, by all means have a crack on this one, because you will enjoy it. You know, you're playing a traveller called Fred. He's lost his memories and he ends up in the city's jail. Now with the help of like a stranger that's in the cell, as we saw in the gameplay footage there, he gives him a key, helps him out, but some of the natives don't really want him leaving the city, and he's on a quest to find the City of Moons. Now the first disc deals with a lot of the bits and pieces you need to do in the village, meeting all the locals, finding some bits and pieces that you need to get to inevitably take you off to the City of Moons, and the City of Moons is dealt with mostly on disc 2. So stick with it. It's a great game, and drop me some comments of how you feel about this game. Have you played it before? Is it a game that you are now going to play? Keeping in mind that you probably could, if you've got a mod chip fit in your Saturn, play it on CDR, and tell me what you feel about it. And you know, it's a recommendation from me, and I wholeheartedly would love you to get in touch with me and tell me any fond memories that you have of this game and how you first discovered it as well. So I'll see you in a future episode of this show, which again will be looking at sort of import games for the Saturn, what is wallet friendly and what is language friendly, what the barriers are and things. As it stands, Gekka sadly has a massive barrier if you don't speak Japanese, so I wouldn't recommend a Japanese copy. I'd recommend either getting the expensive USA copy or the slightly less expensive PAL copy if you can find that as well. So I'll see you on the next episode.